This is Melissa Hardwick, a woman brought before the Russell and Wayne County Family Court in Kentucky for a domestic violence hearing filed by her ex-husband. In court, the hearing was going smoothly with Melissa's ex explaining what led him to seek a protective order. Suddenly, the routine hearing turned chaotic when Melissa erupted mid-testimony.
My personal life is your business.
The judge immediately issued a warning, asking her to calm down or be held in contempt, but she doubled down instead.
Nothing to do with
Miss Hardwick,
no.
you will be held in contempt of this court if you become disruptive.
The judge held her in contempt and sentenced her to 10 days in jail, but the drama was far from over.
I haven't done anything to this court. I haven't done anything to him.
So you'll be arrested for contempt of the court.
It doesn't make any difference.
You will serve 10 days for contempt of court.
As deputies moved in to escort her out, Melissa made a sudden move and lunged toward the judge.
Go now.
Get off of me!
Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
She was dragged away from the courtroom and hit with new criminal charges for her violent outburst. The chaos she caused was so intense, a new judge had to be appointed to handle the case moving forward. Eventually, Melissa Hardwick was sentenced to 120 days in jail for contempt, threats, and disruption in a court of law. Melissa's outburst may have earned her some days in jail, but just wait until you hear about the man who threw a phone at the judge. This is Sidney Newsom, a Mississippi man who appeared before Pike County Justice Court facing domestic violence charges. In court, presiding over the case that day was Southern District Judge Aubrey Rimes. And for a moment there, everything seemed quite normal, but that calm didn't last. Because when he was asked to sign a few documents, Nome hesitated and refused, and that turned into a huge argument. The deputy tried to have him removed from the courtroom, and that was when Sidney completely lost it. First, he grabs a handful of papers from the desk and then throws them at the judge. Then, he slipped from the officer's grasp and reached for the telephone, which he threw at the judge. But by now, the judge had simply had enough. He gets up from the desk and grabs Sidney himself, pinning him down on the desk until the deputies rush in to have him put out of the courtroom. Sidney had the whole courtroom in chaos, but this defendant took it far. He spat on a judge, but this other defendant did. This is Webb, a 30-year-old man brought before a Kentucky court and facing charges of attempted murder charges. CCTV footage outside a Kentucky jail showed the moment Webb, a former inmate, deliberately drove his car straight at two jail employees. One of the men managed to jump out of the way, but the other one was not so lucky as he got hit and pinned to the wall by Webb's car. Webb was brought into court, but even before the trial could properly begin, the presiding judge Vanessa Dixon, who had prior connections to the victims, announced that she would be stepping down from the case.
There's no way I want to try this case or have any further proceedings, or I'll have to see you for one further second.
But before she could even leave the bench, Webb pulled off something no one could even see coming. The bewildered judge had one word for the deputies before Webb was dragged out of the courtroom. But even as the deputies put Webb out of the courtroom, that wouldn't be the last time Bass would be spitting into the face of the law. While awaiting trial, he incited a full-on riot at the Fayette County Detention Center. He got 15 years for that, then 37 more years for the attempted murder charges. But even that wasn't the end. While serving his time, Webb was hit with new charges, the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Bria Rowitz. He was sentenced to 50 more years, and 5 years later, another murder charge, another ex of his, Sabrina Vaughn. But now, Webb showed up to court with his head shaved and tattooed with a hit list. Judges, prosecutors, cops, the media, and 3 rats already crossed out. The jury found him guilty of intentional murder and a term of life imprisonment with the possibility of parole only after 25 years. Webb spit on a judge, incited a riot, confessed to 2 murders, and tattooed his kill list on his own head, but at least he didn't attack his own lawyer. Now, that's something Joseph Zeeler can't say. This is Joseph Zeeler, a man considered just another name in a 2016 assault case until investigators were able to tie him to a double murder from 26 years earlier. Back in May 1990, 11-year-old Robin Cornell and her babysitter Lisa Story were found brutally assaulted and murdered in a Cape Coral, Florida apartment. The person who discovered the crime scene was Robin's mother, Jan Cornell.
911, please, someone to my house, someone come to my house, I think my daughter's dead. Oh my God.
case went cold for decades, with detectives at loss for who the killer was, until Zeeler's arrest for shooting his own son in 2016 led to a major break. His DNA was collected and uploaded to CODIS, a national database that holds DNA from unsolved crimes. And when the system ran a match, Zeeler's sample matched DNA from the 1990 crime scene. Zeeler was arrested and charged with the murders of Robin Cornell and Lisa Story, and in court, the prosecutors went straight for the death penalty.
The state filed a notice to seek the death penalty in this case.
At first, Zeeler had denied knowing any of the victims. He even went as far as to claim that a family relative had committed the murders, not him.
In the letter, profess your innocence or allege your innocence by saying that a relative of yours had done these murders.
Yes.
But soon, he changed his story, claiming he did in fact know the victims and had sexual relations with them.
Did you sleep with Jan Cornell and Miss Deller?
It's possible because I was here.
Well, now you were here.
I mean, I was here in December of '89. I testified to that earlier. And what I believe happened is I slept with Jan Cornell and Leanne Deller, and they were just too much of a pig not to wash their sheets.
But that was not all. When the victim's mother took the stand, she told the court that she had received several threats from Zeeler.
He had my name, my real name, and my address after 33 years.
Eventually, the jury reached a verdict.
Jury verdict as the death penalty, having unanimously found that at least one aggravating factor has been established beyond a reasonable doubt. At least 8 jurors recommend that Joseph Adam Zeeler should be sentenced to death.
But just when you thought it was over, Zeeler pulled one final stunt. During sentencing, Zeeler motions for a private word with his attorney, and as the lawyer leaned in, courtroom deputies rushed in to hold him down, while the unfazed lawyer took his seat.
All right. I ain't doing nothing. Relax. I'm calm.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. I am relaxed. I'm calm. Relax.
I used to box. I've taken a lot better shots than that.
Yeah, what is that?
After the chaos settled, the court handed down the final sentence.
Therefore, the court concludes that under the laws of the state of Florida, the defendant has forfeited his right to live.
Zeeler's courtroom outburst may have shocked everyone, but at least he went for his own lawyer. What happens when a defendant gets into it with the judge herself? This is Deobra Redden, a 30-year-old Nevada man who was in court facing charges of attempted battery with a deadly weapon and looking at spending a possible term of 1 to 4 years in prison.
I shouldn't be sent to prison for a second time.
Have you looked at your criminal history? Have you looked at your criminal history?
In court, Redden tried to ask for probation instead of spending time behind bars, but the judge didn't seem convinced because Redden had quite a long criminal history.
In my mind, my mental goals, I have a support system. I just got hired as a teamster for, a union.
Redden continues to ask for a second chance, claiming that he has been reformed now. But this time, Judge Holthus had heard enough.
I just can't with that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court...
And this was when Redden snapped.
State of Nevada, this court...
Jumping over the table, he immediately lunged at the judge.
In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court...
And the judge, who did not see the attack coming, could barely move out of the way before he landed on her. Officials immediately rushed to the judge's aid and immediately tried to subdue him. After some minutes, Redden was finally subdued, but the damage he had done was severe. He had punched the judge and even pulled out parts of her hair, and one of the courtroom marshals needed 25 stitches and treatment for a dislocated shoulder from the incident. A few days later, Redden returned to court. This time he is in shackles and a spit mask, and even worse, facing 13 new charges including attempted murder, battery on a protected person, and extortion by threat.
State of Nevada, this court does now sentence you in addition to the $25 administrative assessment fee, $150 DNA fee, the $3 DNA administrative assessment fee, and $250 indigent defense fee, 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department.
And by December 2024, the court handed him a new sentence, 26 to 65 years in prison. Redden might have a bone to pick with the judge, but this convict had one with his lawyer.
They are now stipulating that Mr. Teal.
This is Christopher Teal, a man facing first-degree sexual assault and unlawful imprisonment charges in Seattle, Washington. According to the authorities, in May 2018, Christopher Teal, a homeless man, followed a woman into a restroom at a Volkswagen dealership and assaulted her. Fortunately, dealership employees rushed in and stopped the attack before it turned deadly. He was arrested on the spot and later on brought into King County Court for a competency hearing. At first, Teal seemed almost amused by the entire thing. He casually raised his arm toward his attorney, Reed Birkland, as if to touch him, but an officer immediately stopped him. And then, out of nowhere,
they are now stipulating that Mr.
Teal was immediately restrained by detectives, cuffed, placed in a spit hood, and dragged out of the courtroom.
Get down! Face down! Face down! Face down!
His lawyer, Birkland, physically unharmed but thoroughly embarrassed, withdrew from the case on the spot. The next time Teal appeared in court, officials weren't taking any chances. He was strapped tightly to a chair, unable to lash out. But even then, he had one big concern: his mugshot.
Since the last hearing,
this time strapped to a rolling chair.
New counsel needs time.
His biggest concern is how his hair looked in his mugshot.
I got one question, one thing to say. I'd like to know where the they got that photo of me with my short hair. Because that was on Facebook, and I don't have a Facebook.
All right.
Eventually, Teal was found competent to stand trial, and he was convicted on the charge and sentenced to 8.5 years in prison. Teal might have punched his own attorney, but what happens when the fight isn't with your lawyer, but with the police officers? This is Daniel Stewart Barry, a 21-year-old business major facing serious time for a robbery charge in Mississippi. According to reports, Barry allegedly entered a local store, leapt over the counter, put a female clerk in a headlock, and grabbed money from the open register. This got him arrested and charged with 1 count of strong-armed robbery. But way before the proceedings, things already got out of hand because while he was still being escorted into the courtroom, Daniel suddenly lost it.
Yeah.
But deputies were quick on their feet and he was quickly subdued and hauled off. Authorities reported that they suspect that Daniel might be under the influence of some drugs.
I don't know what this is or how much he's taken or whatever, but we'll have to get him evaluated by a doctor, but we've got to determine a safe way to do it for the doctor and for him and for us.
It was also reported that Daniel had assaulted a female worker who tried to bring him a meal the previous night in jail.
And break the nose of this sheriff's deputy, he assaulted a female sheriff's deputy and tried to feed him a meal.
Daniel was hit with more charges for assaulting law enforcement, and his bond was set at $200,000. A Daniel Barry's outburst might have left a trail of injuries and legal trouble, but Bryce Rhodes took things to a whole new level by threatening a judge.
I think you know why. You know exactly why. Now, listen, stop talking. You have been... Are you done?
No, I'm done.
You've been charged with assault in the 4th degree. I'm going to keep talking because I don't want to have to see you back here for this.
You talking about where you live at? What you think that? I don't give a fuck about none of that. I ain't do.
So you're saying you're going to find out where I live at?
This is Bryce Rhodes, a man facing some of the most serious criminal charges the state of Kentucky has seen in recent years. Rhodes was standing trial for the murders of 3 individuals, 40-year-old Christopher Jones and 2 teenage brothers, Maurice Gordon and Larry Ordway. The prosecution alleged that Rhodes first killed Christopher Jones, and days later, fearing that the 2 teenage boys who had allegedly witnessed the crime might talk to authorities, Rhodes brutally stabbed them and attempted to burn their bodies in a vacant lot. The case sent shockwaves through Louisville, but as shocking as the charges were, Rhodes's conduct in court quickly became another headline. Because in court, Bryce decided to make the proceeding as difficult as he could. In one particularly tense courtroom appearance, Rhodes launched into a verbal attack, threatening the judge.
Now, listen, stop talking. You have been... Are you done?
No, I'm done.
You've been charged with assault in the 4th degree. I'm going to keep talking because I don't want to have to see you back here for this.
You talking about where you live at? What you think that? I don't give a fuck about none of that. I ain't do.
So you're saying you're going to find out where I live at?
And in another instance, he threatened an inmate, saying that he will kill the inmate like he did the others. And when the case eventually went on trial, he had a lot to say to the judge.
I don't know if y'all got some type of sexual relationship going on or what y'all got going on, but I'm definitely gonna speak my mind.
Detective Teal and I have no sexual relationship.
Now I'm talking about you and a prosecutor over there, sir.
Right.
You denied all my motions. Every motion I filed, you didn't deny it.
I'm pretty sure I've denied the vast
Every motion I filed.
same motions that have ever
Are you some type of racist?
Other individuals originally charged in connection to the murders accepted plea deals in exchange for testimony against Rhodes. Their statements were used to build a timeline of events and establish Rhodes as the primary actor behind the killings. And this was something Bryce was not too happy about.
See, to sum everything up, detectives were told numerous lies and fabrications by the informant, and they were led on a wild goose chase by someone who made up a story who just thought just so they can get out of jail.
In their statement, the prosecution called the courtroom to remember exactly what Bryce had done.
Profoundly tragic parts of this case. I don't know which is the worst. There's Christopher Jones, father of 3, crossing the street in the West End. Nothing to do with any of this. Shot dead for the stupidest of reasons. Larry and Maurice, killed because they did what we would want any teen to do in this circumstance.
During the victim impact statement, the teenager boy's grandmother addressed the court while Bryce sat there unmoved.
Little Larry played football, and he didn't get the chance to finish. Little Reese wanted music, and he took that from them.
After deliberations concluded, the court handed down its decision. Bryce Rhodes was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Recommendation of the jury in line with the law and impose a sentence of life without parole.
Bryce's courtroom threats were disturbing enough, but this defendant pushed a judge so far, the man took off his robe and joined the fight, literally.
That's enough for you, all right? We'll make it 93.
This is Jacob Larson, who was before a court in Jackson County, Michigan on a protection order hearing. Larson was in court for allegedly stalking a woman, showing up at her workplace, dropping off flowers, and even posting a video claiming they were dating. In court, the judge was already losing patience with him. This was not his first time before the court, and he had been ordered to stay away from the defendant.
Fatal attraction kind of stuff that I warned you about last time. I told you to just leave her alone. She was a classmate of yours. She apparently has no interest in seeing you.
I want her to tell me to leave her alone.
But Larson had a different view of what was happening. Then he accused the judge. But the more he continued, the more the judge lost his patience.
You know what? I told you to leave her alone. And apparently that didn't get through loud and clear. So today, you're going to jail for 3 days. And the next time you violate it, you're going to jail for... You and her are all... You know what?
But the judge was done playing games. He had initially sentenced Larson to 3 days in jail, but that did nothing to faze Larson, and the more he spoke, the more the judge increased the term.
Buddy, y'all get along. Y'all are 45 days county jail. 93 days in the county jail. You want to go for a year? One more word out of you, it'll be a year of county.
Over Facebook.
Stand up. You're going to jail for a year in the county. 365 days county jail. Can't do it.
But that drama was far from over because the judge then asked the court officer to cuff him. Now, that was when the real chaos erupted.
Put your hands behind your back. Tase his ass right now.
And Judge McBain did what almost no judge ever does. He ripped off his robe and joined in the fight to hold down Larson.
That's enough for you, all right? We'll make it 93. You can think about it, all right? Over Facebook. You know her. Well, so I know her. That's not in the community.
Larson was eventually subdued, placed in handcuffs, and whisked off to spend the better part of 3 months in jail. And if you think this was wild, wait till we tell you about the woman who almost punched a judge in the middle of a virtual hearing.
F-426 is $5,000.
This is Sherry Lynn, and she is in court facing a felony battery charge, allegedly committed against a woman named Cynthia Cuba and resisting arrest with violence. There's also a second charge on the record, an alleged assault using a pair of pliers. The court proceedings happen by a live meeting remotely. She appears remotely via video, seated in a holding room, and is assigned a public defender. But from the start, it is obvious that even from behind a screen, Sherry is not ready to play by the courtroom rules. The first person who gets the first brunt is her public defender.
Have you ever been treated for any mental health issues?
Why don't you go yourself first?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
I said go yourself.
Okay, well, I'm a little busy right now.
The judge initially finds this attitude funny and tries to calm Sherry down.
Ma'am, I'm just trying to help you.
Ma'am, he's trying to help you. And please don't use profanity or try and disrupt my courtroom, because I don't want to be forced to hold you in contempt of court. Or Mr. Snyder's trying to help.
But when it comes to court orders, Sherry loses it all over again.
And I'm ordering that you stay away from Cynthia Cuba. Do not have any contact with her, and you must stay away from her home and place of business. As to the other case... Who is this Cynthia Cuba? Tell me! I think you allegedly tried to hit with the pliers. The other case...
And she goes all off on the judge.
The bond gun is $5,000.
But the judge remained unfazed and continued with the orders.
It's $5,000 and count 3 is $1,000. Have a nice day, ma'am. We'll try and get you into the hospital.